Hi, today we're going to do a special video. This is going to be a LensVid NAB roundup of all the new products, or some at least of the new products announced in NAB 2024. And we have Lewis Michelson. Hello, Lou.
Hi, Ido.
Yeah, you're here for the first time, so welcome.
Thank you.
And we have a lot of products to cover, so let's just go over them. We divided them into different sections. So we have cameras, lenses, lights, and it's pretty long. A few other accessories, quite a few. So obviously this is not going to be all the products that were announced on NAB, but at least I think most of the interesting ones, or at least the ones that we thought are pretty interesting that we saw. We didn't cover NAB on the ground in Vegas. We usually cover IBC, which is in Amsterdam. NAB is in the other side of the world. But
Sure, which destination is cooler?
No, I think that NAB is the bigger show, but I know it. Sometimes there are products that are shown for the first time in NAB and those that are shown for the first time in IBC. So, you know, it depends. Anyway, let's start with cameras. So a camera that was announced during NAB, but I'm not sure that it was actually on the floor in NAB, is the Insta360 X4. I think that you used or have a previous generation, probably 2 generations behind or something like that.
I feel like it might have been the original, the Insta360 R or R, something like that. It's where you get the 2 different mods, the 4K and the 360. And I wound up using the 4K almost exclusively as just a regular action cam because every time I zoomed in to get that part that I wanted from the 360 image, it really just image would fall.
Yeah. And obviously there was at least another generation after that, but this one really, moves the resolution way up with 8K. I don't know. I didn't test it. The footage looks interesting. It looks good, but obviously footage from Insta themselves, and even I would say from some of the early reviewers, it always looks like really, really cool, but you have to actually test it yourself.
Me the first time. So, but this would ideally solve the problem.
Yeah. So I think it's 8K 30p and then 4K 100p with improved battery and has a larger screen and some AI features. So more or less that's.
Is it a new sensor, or is it just new?
I'm guessing,
engineering?
How can it be 8K if it's not in use? Yeah, that's the only way I can think about it. So anyway, that's that. Everything is going to be fairly short. You'll have more info and links in the article. So we're not going to focus on each product, like we do normally on LensVid Talks. It's a special video with a lot of products. So the second big announcement came from Blackmagic, and Blackmagic really released a lot of products. We're not going to go over all of them, but just in the camera department, we have 2 basically Ursa Mini. There is the 17K, not 7K, 17K, and the 12K Pro. Mini Pro. And the 12K I think is already like either available right now or will be available very, very soon. But the 17, from what I understand, is like future release.
Still tweaking.
Yeah. So I'm not sure. You told me that you looked at them. I didn't really look too deep into the differences. You said that you think that the 17K is a completely, or at least it looks externally a little bit different than the 12K. I'm not sure.
So, yeah.
I don't know. We have to look into that. But the 12K is certainly interesting. I think it has 2 screens and both are from the sides, right?
That's right.
Yeah. At least one of them is a fairly large screen from the side. I don't know. It's not a camera that I would probably use, so it's a different like workflow from what I'm used to.
They're used to making broadcast cameras, and this is a cinema camera, but it looked and felt like it still had some of those broadcast features.
Yeah, I agree. So I know it's not probably, if you actually want to look at the footage, you will have an additional screen. So that's up with that. And there is another camera called Pixis. I'm not pronouncing this correctly. Probably a 6K camera.
Oh, Pixis. Yeah.
Pixis. Yeah. Okay. So.
Probably like Pixis.
Yeah, something like that. Anyway, so this is a 6K camera. It's like a box sort of camera.
Box camera.
Yeah.
Right.
From what I've seen, again, I didn't dive too deep into this. A lot of the people who actually either played a little bit with it or, let's say, read the specs a little bit better than I did, they noted one thing which they didn't like. And that was
dynamic range.
Yeah. What was that? Like 13 stops or something like that?
Right.
It's not amazing.
For 15, yeah.
Yeah. So I know it is what it is, but that's the 6K Pixis or whatever camera.
Mm-hmm.
And besides, we were talking about cameras, but we really have to mention this. There is a new beta version of DaVinci Resolve 19.
Right. Beta.
So yeah. So far just beta. You haven't played it. You're a DaVinci user.
I am, and I've installed it, but I've barely started to play with it. I am interested. One of the first things I'm going to touch is the voice isolation function, because now, maybe they were using AI before, because there was a voice isolation function, but now this one's supposed to be much more improved. I thought the last one was pretty good. I would use a little dash of it, and it would be like a little would go a long way. But now maybe I can push that slider up even more and really, really isolate the voice without distortion. That would be cool.
I'm a Premiere Pro user, and the Adobe podcast, now they put it in Premiere Pro. I have to say, initially I was very enthusiastic about it because I saw the potential, but we are now a year and a half since the announcement, and honestly, I don't think it improved much. Even maybe it, they tweaked it in a way that was not truly beneficial to it. I'm not sure, but even if it's exactly the same, you don't have a lot of ways to play with it. You can just put it like from 1 to 10 or something like that. You can just increase or decrease it,
right.
And it doesn't work for two people. When two people are talking, it introduces all sorts of it's called podcast. In a podcast, you would assume that it will be able or capable of
now that
differentiating.
You mention that,
yeah,
I may not have looked at that aspect on DaVinci, so we may have the same issue.
That's really interesting, because I would assume it will be able to differentiate between my voice and the second voice. It doesn't, and sometimes it creates all sorts of distortions and introduces
even when they're on different channels.
Yeah.
Huh.
Because look, you always we are talking right now, and sometimes I'm saying something into the channel when you're talking.
Right.
So that's always an issue, and I'm really looking forward to an AI that can differentiate two speakers or more and fix each of them completely without destroying the other one. It's not simple, but I think it's
maybe a
possible.
little bit like how cameras can remember faces. We can remember voices.
Yeah, the problem obviously is the crosstalk.
Right.
That's the main issue. So, but we talked off point. The point is that DaVinci has a 19 beta version, and I don't know, if you want test if you're using a DaVinci as your primary.
It's the season of AI features.
Yeah, for sure.
And that looks like that's what most of the new features are, which is interesting.
Yeah. Okay, so that's Blackmagic. They have a lot of other products that we didn't mention here. There is a new, I don't know even if to call it a camera. It is a camera, obviously, but it's a camera mode or something like that. It's a OFG, OFG Customs, which do basically they're a rental house, right?
Rental house. They're a camera design company, I think, and they do cinema cameras for rental houses.
Oh, okay. Okay. So they have
custom cinema cameras.
Yeah, okay.
I should say.
Yeah. And this is exactly what this is. Mm-hmm. So this is OFG Custom 65. I know. It's basically a Fujifilm GFX100, which is a medium Mark II, which is a medium format camera with a lot of video capabilities or cinema capabilities, whatever you want to call it. And they modded it into, but it's a very extreme mod. Like you have like a different lens mount, basically. It's not the Fujifilm GFX, I think, or whatever connector or mount. And it has, they removed the screen and put it again on the side. They actually had to take out the screen, do all the electrical connections in a different way, and the whole thing has a lot of like connectors.
Didn't they use an Atomos?
Yeah, but I think that the Atomos is like, it's an addition. You
Right.
can buy. It's not physically connected somehow besides like an
Meaning
HDMI.
they took the screen off the camera.
Yeah, that's the, and again they added a lot of like aluminum components, so you can connect all sorts of stuff, and probably a few other things I know. But it looks interesting. You know, it's medium format for cinema is not something that is like it's not very common. So
Video DSLR shooter, if that's his name, Caleb invented came up with a cinema camera rig. And this reminded me a lot of, not that I know a lot about cinema camera rigs, but this seemed like a beefier, just bigger, more capable version of the same thing.
Yeah,
it's like
they
ultimate.
Yeah. No, this concept has been done in all sorts of ways, but specifically for Fujifilm, it's interesting.
Has it been ever done before with a medium format camera?
Not that I am aware of, but maybe.
Right.
I can't recall a previous version of because you have to remember that there are not a lot of medium format cameras that are so capable of shooting video. Yeah.
Right.
So Kinfinity has an early prototype of a new 8K camera. It can shoot 8K 66 frames per second and I think 4K 130, which is interesting. Strange numbers. I'm not sure why 66 and 130, but it is what it is. So we don't know much about this camera. From the little I've seen from like interviews during NAB, I think it has the new sensor, Genlock, and EVF, and a new SDI module. So we'll have to, maybe we will see something in IBC. Like again, it's a future camera. So that's in terms of cameras. Let's talk about lenses. There were a lot of lenses, a lot. We're no way that we can cover all of them in this, but we chose a few interesting ones. So we have new NiSi Athena lenses. We saw, I think, the prototypes in IBC last year. So we're talking about the extended family of the NiSi Athena. They have now 8 lenses in this line. So the new ones are the 18mm T2.2, 40mm T1.9, and 135 T2.2. So these are the 3 new ones. I don't have anything in particular to say about them except that they look fantastic. They're very well built from what I've seen. We haven't had a chance to test them. I actually talked to NiSi after the show. Maybe we'll have a chance to test one of those new lenses later this year.
Shooting through this 135 is in any way shooting like through a 135mm on a full frame.
In what sense?
In terms of the bokeh. Bokeh on a 135 is just
it's fantastic.
Out of this
of course.
World, right? So
yeah, that's the whole idea. Yeah, so that's basically somehow equivalent to a 135, I guess. T2, not 2, F2 or f1.8 lens. Right. So that's the T2.2. So that's NiSi Athena, 3 new lenses. Irix has a new lens that we actually saw this one again. We saw this one on IBC, but it wasn't ready. So it took them quite a few months, but now it is. It's a 65mm T1.5. It's a fairly, I would say, medium-size lens. It's not very big. Again, we've seen this in IBC, so I don't have a lot of things to say about it, but it's cool. And maybe after the show, I'll talk to them and get one to review in here. SIRUI has, I think, 2 new lenses. So one is a 75mm f2.1.2. So really fast lens, and another 16mm f1.2. So these are actually not, they're Cine lenses, but I think they're not. Actually, I'm not sure if they're. why they don't have like the T instead of the F. Maybe they do, and I don't know. But yeah, 75 millimeter f 1.2 T, whatever. It's quite nice, and they're very, very compact. So that's SIRUI is doing very well in terms of like its lens. They have a lot of anamorphic lenses there right now, and most of them are very like compact and nice and pretty inexpensive, which is also cool. Do you know Blazar? Blazar? I don't know how to pronounce them. Yeah,
Blazar.
Yeah. Anyway, this company, it's a Chinese manufacturer. They have 2 new lines of anamorphic lenses. Actually, yeah. The first one is a full frame anamorphic 2x squeeze line. And we have, all of them are pretty small, which is pretty surprising because usually like full frame anamorphic 2x are pretty big. So that's nice that they were able to squeeze them into a small form factor. So there is a 40 millimeter T 2.4, 52, 85 millimeter 2.8, and 125 millimeter, which is a strange focal length, T 3.2. So that's the 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 4 basically anamorphic 2x full frame lenses. That's pretty impressive. And there is also a new lens line called Remus, which is, I don't know much about it. It's a Super 35 1.5 squeeze line. I don't know. I'll if I have more info, I'll write it basically in the article about which specific lenses are going to be there and what they're.
2 is the most intense, like squeezing,
as far as
right?
I know, I haven't seen any anamorphic lens with more than 2x squeeze.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So that's the Blazar, whatever their name is. DZO has a few interesting lenses. I'm not sure how new all of them are. I think that they're kind of new. They have a 65 millimeter T 2.8. But what's special about this lens, and we talked about this just before this talk, this lens, usually anamorphic lenses are incapable of close focus or very close focus. And this is from all sorts of like optical reasons that I'm not exactly sure of. Maybe if we go to IBC, we can talk about this with some of the manufacturers.
Find out.
Yeah,
we'll
if they can explain
what
exactly is the problem with that. But there actually is one more thing I want to ask them: why there isn't any anamorphic autofocus lens? I'm not aware of any such lens. That can actually be interesting. So, but that's a question that we can ask them. Again, I'm pretty sure that it's something to do with the optical design. But regardless, so DZO Optics was able to have a 65 millimeter anamorphic lens with only 36 centimeters of focus distance, minimum focus distance, which is fantastic. So that's pretty cool. They also have in this line a 135 T 2.5 and pretty beefy 180 millimeter T 2.8. They are all from the Pavo line, 2x anamorphic full frame. So that's interesting. So that's that. And they have another line called Arles, which I don't know much about, but there apparently are 25, 50, 75, and 100 millimeter lenses, all T 1.4. That's cool. I don't think that they're anamorphic. I think that these are regular Cine lenses. Again, I'll write this in either in the article or in the text below. So these are the DZO optic lenses. Viltrox was really surprising in NAB this year. They came up with a lens which everybody that saw it was really like, I think you know what I'm talking about.
Was this one of the silver ones that?
Not the silver, the white line, lenses. This is the gigantic, it's called Luna, the Luna lens. It's a 30 to 300 like 10x zoom T4 lens. So it's a giant lens. It weighs like, I think, 15 kilograms or something like that.
Right.
Over 30 pounds, if I'm not mistaken.
This was the very pricey lens?
Yeah.
Okay.
And as far as we could understand, this lens is going to cost, it's going to be available probably in a year. So it's like still in development, but it looks really impressive. And we're talking about a lens that will cost over $65,000. So yeah, it's
wealthy weightlifters.
Yeah, something
It's a
like
niche.
that.
It's a niche.
Yeah. No, I'm thinking, it's going to be rental houses,
Right.
and maybe, I don't know, something like BBC, like nature,
Right.
or sports or broadcast, maybe even if you need something that is, well, lighter than a broadcast lens. I know.
As long as you've got someone to carry it for you.
Yeah, something like that. And besides this gigantic lunar lens, they also came up with two lenses that I think that we saw again in IBC. Sometimes, as I said, they show something in IBC and then it announce in NAB, or the other way around. So it depends on
testing it out.
Yeah. So no, they're they want to tell the audience this is coming, and then
Right.
After a while, they show the finished product. So it's called the Epic 100mm T2, and there is also a 25mm T2. Both of them are 1.33 full frame anamorphic squeeze lenses. So they're nice, they're pretty beefy. They're not small lenses. And this is nothing to do with lenses, but it's also Viltrox. They showed something that really surprised me. Basically, I think it's a 5-inch. I'm not sure if it's a 5 or a 7, but it looks like a 5-inch 2000 nits SDI monitor, like on-camera monitor, which is strange. I didn't know that Viltrox is making accessories, but well, apparently they are. So that's kind of nice. So that's all the lenses. Probably there are a million others. I think I've seen some Atlas lenses and some other very high-end lenses from other manufacturers. But we need to go to the next section. So the next section is going to be lights, and there were a lot of lights in NAB this year. Aputure had a new INFINIMAT series of lenses, of lights. Did you see those?
Yeah, it reminded me of one of those blow-up mattresses, the big ones, with like lights inside. It was cool though because it looked easier than the normal setup.
Yeah,
It just looked like you blow up air into it, and it's just kind of boom. Maybe it has some clips or something, and you're good to go.
Yeah, this is not the first time that we are seeing this concept of inflatable lights. I think Godox has one, and even before that, like in previous NABs, in IBCs, we have seen a few companies coming up with this idea. But it's nice to see this from Aputure because it goes along with the entire ecosystem with their Sidus Link app, so it works with the entire existing ecosystem of Aputure, and they have them in different sizes up to a huge,
Massive.
a massive one, but they have small ones as well. I'm not sure about the pricing, but it's interesting. And they also had, in terms of lighting, they had a Sidus Link Pro up, which is going to be like more, pro, obviously. And it allows you to control a lot of lights and do all sorts of customization, and basically allowing you like a workflow where you control, you have one doing something and the second one is doing something like lighting up or doing I don't know, flickering, or
So it's more involved in the original
for
Sidus
sure.
app.
Yeah. So that's whatever, but that's interesting. And with that, they also have a product called Sidus One, which allows you to basically control via wireless DMX all sorts of lights and use the Sidus, basically the Sidus Link Pro, I think.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Because with all these different companies coming out with their own apps, And someone's got to try to create a universal solution.
There are. They're not the first one to come up with that. But again, if you like the Sidus Link, then using this with, and now you can control different lights that have DMX or wireless DMX or whatever. That's a pretty interesting solution. Godox have shown basically quite a few new products. They always do. And in NAB, they had the M600R, which is basically a new RGB COB light, 600 watts. Looks really cool. I'm really looking forward to testing it. I'm hoping that Godox will be able to send us this for a review. Shipping now is quite problematic, especially here to Israel, but all over the world is kind of difficult, so I'm not sure, but hopefully we'll get it for testing.
What's unique about this light is that it's high power, or
it's 600 watt RGB. Right. There are a couple of those. We will talk about a few of them later on.
Historically, RGB has been like usually a lower power light.
Yeah.
Right?
First of all, COB RGB is still not that common, especially at higher outputs. Like anything above 300 is not that common. There are a few, but not that many. Yeah, so that's the M600R, and they have, and this is the first time again I've seen that, an 800 watt. It's called F800 4x4 flexible light. So it looks really lightweight, fairly easy to set up, like basically a light mat, but a big one, an 800 watt light mat. Not sure about the pricing. Maybe I don't know if they announce it, but it looks like a very capable light. And the only thing that I liked about the INFINIMAT more than this flexible mat from Godox is the fact that the INFINIMAT has all of them have diffusion built in. Now you can argue that if you have a diffusion built in, then if you want hard light, then it won't work. But I don't think that anybody is really going to use these matte lights as hard lights. Now, maybe you can use your own diffusion, like a larger fabric or something, but I don't know. I think that for like a run and gun, I'm not sure if all of them are really run and gun. It takes some time to set them up, but relatively easy large lights. I would go with the INFINIMATs in terms of like how easy it is to set up, because you don't need the extra like diffusion,
all those extra components. It's just
exactly
more of a pain on the go.
I'm not sure why Godox didn't. Maybe they will have like an accessory that will go over this, but I'm thinking that the INFINIMAT, the way I've seen them so far, the diffusion looks really nice because it's not like on the light itself. There is some distance,
cushion of air,
exactly.
So it's a little bit set
I would
forward.
say it's like 30 centimeters away from the light. And like then you actually get the diffusion, because if you put the diffusion right onto the light,
has no effect.
Yeah,
right.
It's not really helpful. It does, but not that much.
Right.
So other lights, Neewer, which is a company that we didn't talk that much about here on LensVid, they have a 600 watt bicolor light, which is nice. I mean, it's a COB. It's not RGB, but still.
Right.
And I think that they don't know the target price yet, but it's going to be around $1,000 more or less. I'm not sure how this competes. I think that the Aputure is more expensive. 600 watt is more expensive, the bicolor. Not sure about the Godox. It will have an app. That's more or less everything I can say about it. And talking about 600 watt lights, Kelvin, do you know this company? It's
no, but it's a great name for a light company.
That's true. No, they're a Norwegian.
Norwegian, yeah.
No, I think a Norwegian company, and now they have the EPOS 600. So they had the 300. We should have tested it last year, but we didn't get it for some reason. Hopefully, we can get the 600. So really, really nice looking light, like the aesthetics of the light. It's not that important, but it's
got an industrial look.
Yeah, really, really squarish looking. So it's a 600 watt RGB light. Again, we're talking about RGB lights, and it's a very capable RGB COB. Again, we're looking forward to testing it if we get our hands on it. So that's for lights there. I'm sure that there are a million others that were shown in NAB this year, but
Those were the standouts we noticed.
Yeah. Let's talk about accessories, and here's a long list. So Tilta, again, this is something which is really small. I think it was announced a little bit before NAB, but probably shown during the show. It's called the Tilta Foldable Arca Baseplate. So it's basically, you know, those accessories which allows you to turn the camera while it's like
Collar.
Yeah, right. It's a articulating collar or whatever you want to call it, right. Flipping collar. I know. So Smallrig have one. I think Ulanzi has one. Falcom, a few others, and we have a couple of them. We're actually using 2 of them right now. But the idea is that with these ones, you have to connect them to the camera and the lens somehow, like not the lens, but to the lens mount.
Right.
Like they sit on the lens mount. And with this thing, it's basically just a plate. It sits on the camera and it does a 90-degree angle movement, and that's it.
Right.
Really simple. The only downside, basically, it's not centered.
It's not centered, so the right where the sensor is going to be moving.
So basically, if you're shooting like horizontal and then you want to switch to vertical, you're changing the composition. Yeah, and that's not ideal. But if you want something really quick and you don't care, you can fix the composition really quickly. You know, I think it's actually a simpler solution compared to the collar ones. So I think that it's good to have both. The only thing that I'm not really sure about is I think that the Arca is set to the side. I don't know how to explain it, but it's not front facing somehow. I need to look at it.
It's off by a 90-degree angle so that it doesn't go in sideways, or it goes in sideways instead of.
Yeah, I need to test it myself to see if maybe I'm mistaken. I don't know. Tilta also had, and these were shown in NAB, new tripods. I think 2 of them, maybe more. The idea, I think, one of them is like more stills tripods, but they can be used for video, like with like leg locks, which are twist leg locks, basically, without a spreader. And the other ones are more traditional looking, basically spreader with a, I think, latch mechanism. So basically these are the first, I think, Tilta tripods. I haven't seen any others. And I think they also have a head, which looks pretty nice. I don't know. If we get a chance, we can test it. We'll probably see it in IBC later this year. So at least that.
I wouldn't mind trying it out.
Yeah, it's certainly interesting. There are a lot of new tripods and monopods. We'll get to them in a second. Yeah, actually the next one is another tripod, and this one is from Smallrig, and they joined the forces with Potato Jet. We mentioned him in a previous LensVid talk, and basically the idea here is to create really fast opening tripods. Now we have seen that in the past, but this version is basically with a handle which you squeeze somehow, and then all the legs open at the same time.
Right.
Pretty cool.
Hold it up and they just kind of like fall out.
I think that I've seen some demonstrations where the guy, Potato Jet, basically just held the whole tripod once, the legs open, which it's impressive because I don't know how the mechanism works, but obviously it has to open and lock using this handle.
It's one mechanism that feeds all the way down those legs.
Yeah, it's interesting. So yeah, that's pretty cool. I'm not sure if it's ready yet. Probably not, but yeah, we'll have to see.
Oh right, he said they were still tweaking.
Tweaking it. So things. Yeah, it's probably the pricing is not there yet, and
he was working with them on the Smallrig Trailblazer, or at least he was helping them sell it. I think he featured it in a few of his videos. And I like that one. It's a little bit beefier. I think it's meant for slightly heavier setups, but it's meant for also fast deployment.
Yeah.
But it's definitely not one thing that you grab onto. You still have the 3 locks. This is super fast. This is very on the go.
if we can get them when it's ready, if we can get them to try this, we'll certainly do a review. Now, talking about, again, this is not a tripod, but a monopod, but there are some interesting monopods in NAB this year. So iFootage demonstrated another basically quick deploy mechanism for its monopod. It's called the Cobra Strike.
Yeah.
So this part is pretty cool. We have tested the previous monopod they have. It's fantastic. The only thing that I wouldn't say didn't like, but it's something that is more like more operations or more things that you need to do, is that it has this like normal or conventional leg lock mechanism. It has a foot. Like you press the foot and then you can move the monopod.
The clasp locks, right?
Yeah. So you need to open them and then lock them again. Right. And now they have this interesting mechanism which you squeeze somehow.
And that's it.
Yeah, and you can move it up and down, and it has the leg mechanism, and what else? And you can put that. What was interesting? You can, of course, remove the whole like leg itself, right. Not the leg, the pole itself, and then do a very low one. But you can also
put on the pedestal, right?
And you can also put two of them, which is really interesting. You can put two like poles, one on top of the other.
Them.
Yeah. And then you can have like something which is really, really high. That's interesting. I don't know when I will use it, but we use in the past, I think we used like a really tall monopod going through a show, just, shooting downwards. That was pretty nice.
I was going to say in that aspect, it reminds me of the Vari-poles, which are these really tall poles for lights, which I guess can probably do the same thing.
No, but
they're much taller.
Yeah, but Vari-poles are used to fix like from the ceiling to the...
Right, and they stick.
And they don't have anything to connect the camera to. They're just poles.
They're just poles.
No, with this is definitely something that you can do. I would really like to test this, and I don't know, I'll talk to them when it's ready. And talking about monopods, YC Onion had the Pinata. I don't know, how do you pronounce
Pinta. There seems to be a few different.
Nobody seems to agree about
We'll figure it out eventually, but
we'll
for
ask
now,
them.
there's like 3 or 4 different pronunciations.
Yeah, so it's called I'll call it Pinata Pro. So this thing is really interesting. So basically, they took the original version, which we tested. We tested both the iFootage and the original Pinata, and they replaced the mechanism for opening and locking into a new one, which is like easier. And they added a foot pedal, which allows you to...
Were you talking about the base plate, the piece that screws into the camera?
No. I'm talking about the leg part. Yeah. You have a piece where you basically press a pedal,
right,
and then the whole thing moves like to the sides, and then you remove your leg and it stays in that position, or you push it again and it
centers.
And yeah, exactly.
Right.
So they didn't have this in the previous one. iFootage had this,
right?
But iFootage didn't have the quick deploy. So now both of them have the leg pedal and the quick deploy. Each version has their own the mechanism is obviously not the same. So we'll have to see which one is better if we get both of them.
Looks like a competition to me.
Yeah, for sure. They're very similar in what they can actually do, not necessarily in the way that they do it. I think that in the new Pinata also seemed to have, which I really liked, a 1/4" 20, maybe with R pins, I'm not sure, on the side. So you can connect like a monitor.
I was going to say, some way of attaching a little accessory would be great.
Yeah. A light, a mic, or a monitor. A monitor is really great for a monopod.
Right. Instead
of putting it, I don't like putting them on the camera, especially not on the cold shoe or hot shoe, because sometimes it's too heavy and it's cumbersome. And putting it on the side of monopod, that can be good. But that's the YC Onion Pinata or whatever Pro. That's the new version. Sachtler, or how do you pronounce it? Sachtler, yeah, probably. So they have a new version of their Ace tripod. It's called the Ace Mk II. Honestly, I got an email from them just before NAB announcing this, And they mentioned all sorts of like small changes to the tripod. It was kind of popular before, but
The MK1, you mean?
yeah, the thing that jumped to me, I think that you saw the video about this,
It
right?
was a hilarious video.
What will I'll show
Was
it
it
on.
about tripods?
Yeah,
I wasn't sure.
I know. I'll put it on the screen, like part of it right now, and you can say in the comments what you're thinking. But I saw this and I was like, it looks like something coming from a very different. Usually they're a very conservative company.
It reminded me of one of the first advertisements by Insta360
Yeah.
for the 360 camera, where they're showing you all the different tricks you can do
Yeah.
with the camera.
I would expect this from Insta. I wouldn't expect from them. This video was the strangest thing I've ever seen from like an established brand of this sort. It basically didn't tell you anything, simply anything about the tripod. I didn't learn what this tripod could do or how innovative it is compared to the previous generation, or why should I buy it compared to.
But one thing was clear from the advertisement.
It's a tripod.
Not only that, but they want young people to like this tripod.
Yeah.
So this may not have been about the specs.
Okay, it is what it is. So I don't know. I'll have a link in the article, and you can figure out for yourself what's new about this. DJI had a few interesting products announced just before NAB and shown, I'm guessing, in NAB. So they have the RS4 and RS4 Pro. You have the RS2, right? Yeah.
That's right.
So what's the new in the 4 and 4 Pro?
Well, they are able to carry heavier cameras, I think heavier rigs. I think that's one difference. And I noticed when I was looking at the video, one of the videos that I saw on it, that they said that when you're balancing the camera and you're tightening those, I don't know, the clamps or whatever to get the camera fixed to the gimbal, the material that is used in the clamping, they said they changed what that's made out of. And I know that every time I'm clamping that down, it feels like I'm damaging the inside of the device. Like there is something in there that I can feel kind of wearing a little bit. And I don't know if it's made out of old brake pads or what, but they said they found a new material for that. So I can't wait to actually screw that thing in and just see how it feels, because I feel like I'm kind of ruining my Ronin every time I use it.
Yeah, and I think there is another thing that I noticed. I didn't look too deep into this, but from what I've seen, there is also a quick way of changing. We talked about this with the other Tilta product, from basically changing orientation from horizontal to vertical, like very quickly. That's nice. And I was thinking that they should do it, but in a different way. But at least there is an option. And they also have the Focus Pro model, finally.
Yeah. Is this the third generation of their focusing mechanism?
The LiDAR focusing mechanism, yeah. I know.
I'm right. Sure. It's the LiDAR. So no, this is probably just the second one.
I'm thinking.
Yeah.
From what I remember, originally it was only possible to use it with the gimbal.
Right.
I'm not sure if they had something in between that somehow allowed it to work, but now it's like a standalone product, which you can use with whatever you want.
Right.
Pretty cool. It's quite expensive. I'm not sure, but I think it's $1,000. So,
What stood out to me is that it now has a separate unit that assistant cameraman can, or somebody doing pulling focus for you, can do separately.
Yeah.
And you can attach that to
I'm not sure if they also announced a new, was it DJI, a new focus point. I'll write it in the article if they have another product that was announced that I didn't mention here. Do you know Bebob, the German manufacturer?
Never heard of them before.
Okay, so we tested some Bebob batteries. They have all sorts of V mount and B mount batteries. So they're very well known and very respected in the industry. They now have a new V240 micro battery. We tested, I think, the 50 and the 99 watt versions of their batteries. We're actually using one of the cameras that we're shooting right now is connected to one of those. So this one is just bigger, basically. The one thing that I didn't really like, I mean, it seems that all of the other manufacturers of V-mount batteries have moved to like this, the micro ones, and moved to like having USB-C, USB-A, DC, like 2 DCs, and D-tap. And Bebob didn't. So I don't know, maybe they have plans for a new line that will have all of these in the future, but this comes in 2024 and it has only USB-A. One USB and one D-tap. Yeah. So I don't know. But maybe if you're using this as a camera battery, because like bigger camera,
just that,
and yeah, exactly, and maybe a monitor or something. But then that's fine. That's a great battery with a lot of juice. But yeah. Talking about batteries, Smallrig, and you mentioned Caleb Pike before. So they joined forces with Caleb Pike to develop fairly similar battery in terms of capacity, like a 212 watt-hour battery, which I'm guessing was also shown in NAB. And it has all the things that the smaller versions of the Smallrig that we've seen. We've covered them in IBC last year. So it has basically the same connections. The only difference that I've seen, and the only, I'd say, maybe input that Caleb had, I don't know, maybe he had some other things that he mentioned, but the only thing that I really saw that is different than their existing batteries is that the part which connects, which locks the connectors on the top, is basically, it opens all the way, it stays there. You can open it if you like. So that was a small and like annoying thing.
Meaning you can remove it, or you can...
No, it goes like, this is how it looks closed, and then you can open it like 180 degrees, and it will stay there with magnets.
Popping back.
Yeah, which is annoying. Yeah. I mean, it's not a big thing, but yeah.
Every little, when everyone is kind of releasing the same product.
Yeah, you need to differentiate even with a small tray. Yeah, I agree. So yeah, that's a 212 VB212 mini V-mount battery from Smallrig. Now on to something completely different. Emotimo, I think it's a US manufacturer, I'm not sure. They have a motion control system. And basically, this goes into like, how would you call it? A dolly. Yeah, you connect it into like a dolly. You put a DJI
Ronin, yeah.
Ronin, or not Ronin, I think RS. Was it Ronin?
Yeah, an RS2, RS3, I think they said.
Whatever, a DJI gimbal. And then you can control up to 8 axes. So you can move backwards and forwards. And with the gimbal, all the movements that the gimbal can do. And the nice thing, and there is a video that our friends at Terrafold or Threefold, yeah, exactly. They're a great production company, and they also have a YouTube channel. And basically, they did an interview with the company, and they showed how to control it both with an Xbox controller or like basically a wireless controller, a Stream Deck, which was really innovative. Have you ever seen like a slider moving or whatever, a gimbal moving with a Stream Deck?
I mean, they must have different things programmed into each button. That's
of course.
So much capability.
I really like Stream Decks. If I could, I would. I tried, I think, from the Sony app to control cameras with a Stream Deck. It's possible.
Wow.
A little bit limited, but it's possible. So but this is pretty cool. So yeah, that's an interesting solution. Not sure about the pricing, but
nice to see them also able to integrate different products together and have them communicate effectively. I mean,
it's not easy. Yeah,
right.
I know that some Chinese manufacturers try that with like gimbals and all sorts of other things. It doesn't always work that well, to be honest.
I put my RS2 on the iFootage iShark Nano. Is that the name of it?
What, the slider?
Yeah.
Isn't it too heavy?
Well, I had it going really, really slow.
Okay.
And it did shake a little bit. So I wonder how...
No, this thing is like It's a much beefier.
They pull it down, like clamp
No,
it down. How do they keep it from shaking? It's a good question.
I know, but I mean the gimbal shakes.
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay.
There's a little bit of play there.
Yeah, but the thing is that dollies, like the larger dollies, are much more rugged than the smaller sliders.
So just absorbing
yeah.
more.
So yeah, I know. Again, I didn't test it, so I can't comment. But Shimbol, which is we talked about them in a previous LensVid talk. They have a Chinese manufacturer, mostly doing monitors. So they have a new monitor. It's called the C5, and the interesting thing about this one is that it has camera control. Now, they are not the first one to do camera control, but the implementation looks interesting and supposed to work with all sorts of manufacturers like Sony and Canon and Panasonic, whatever. Obviously, each manufacturer allows like a different level of openness to controlling, but it works, I think, with HDMI and another cable for the camera control. I think that the port keys, which also do camera control, I think that they can do wireless camera control, which is nicer.
Wow.
Yeah, that's cool. But this doesn't. But I know it's interesting. I'm not sure about the pricing, but I think it's
probably
between $400 and $500, something like that.
Oh, I was going to say probably on the cheaper side if it has fewer features. But
I'm not sure. No, 400. Maybe I'm mistaken. I don't know.
Yeah.
Again, in the article, but they do have something which is relatively inexpensive,
right.
and that is like a Wi-Fi transmitter, like TX transmitter receiver set for $90.
Yeah, I've never heard of such a thing.
That's I think I've seen something for the computer which is like relatively inexpensive. Not sure if it's at this level, but like significantly less expensive than I don't know. Acsoon or Hollyland or whatever, but $90, yeah, that's nothing. Again, we didn't test it, so I don't know how good it is, but it exists. Now, talking about wireless transmitters, Acsoon showed, I think, 1,500 feet or 450 meters, basically wireless transmitter. It's called a Cine II. It's a second generation, I'm guessing. It's a SDI wireless transmitter with 50 milliseconds of latency, and it has dual channels. So it works, or dual band, basically. So it works both on 2.4 gigs and 5. Yeah.
So it's more stable.
Yeah. And it's more stable, and the distance is long. I have to say something about this distance thing. I've seen this for the longest time. Companies like Hollyland and Acsoon and all the other Teradek to some degree, all of them, are trying to fight for who has the longest distance. I don't understand this. And I think I asked Hollyland about this, and what they explained is that you don't necessarily need the distance because seriously, how many people are actually using the camera for or the
to go that far?
Yeah, the monitor 400 meters away from. I mean, seriously. So I don't know, but I think it's more for environments where you have a lot of interference.
I was going to say penetration.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the same
So
thing.
yeah, so it's like you have doors in the way, or you have to view the footage from the next room. But I have to say, even the existing like Hollyland and the other ones that we have tested, we have 2 metal doors in the entrance to our studio, like thick ones. And we tested like the Hollyland, all the recent Hollylands from the past 2 or 3 years. And I think all of them or most of them were able to show footage behind 2 metal closed doors.
Wow.
So do you really need more?
More than that.
I know. It's like, man, that it is what it is. They do have this. This is a $650 kit. I would say I'm not sure if on the pricier side, but slightly more premium than maybe their previous ones. Hollyland also, I didn't write it in here. I'll write it in the article. I think Hollyland also have some new stuff shown on NAB. So I didn't write it, so I won't mention exactly what, but it will be in the article. And finally, that was a long list of products. EasyRig has a new product. It's called EasyRig Boom. And you see all this, right?
I watched it, and the question that the interviewer was asked was forming in my head. I was saying, if I already have an EasyRig, don't make me buy another one, even though I really love this implementation. This is so logical. I mean, this is I can see how people use this.
Let's just say what it is. It's basically an EasyRig with a boom attachment for microphones, which can go very, very long and is very
adjustable.
Yeah.
Yeah. But if you've already got one and you have to buy another support system just to put this new piece on top, so it turns out that they are compatible.
Yeah.
Backwards compatible.
The thing is that EasyRigs, well, depending on the model, they have different models, and it's very good from people that I haven't used it. I talked to the inventor, he's a fantastic guy. I haven't used it myself, but it's not cheap. It's a fairly expensive product, but for professionals who need this, like they're shooting all day, every day with cameras on, they need this, because otherwise, you're going to ruin your back. Destroyed. Yeah. So it's a solution, and now they have this solution for boom operators. So that's pretty cool. I think that Tilta came up with something which looks relatively similar. It does the same idea, or it does the same job, but this looks much more flexible, to be honest. So it looks like they invested a lot of thinking into how to make this like super.
It has a fulcrum, and so you're not. It's really great. You're not using your own strength.
Yeah,
and you can use that fulcrum to kind of point it, and you can lower it. And
I think that was true for the Tilta as well, but I think that here they made it from a material that was a little bit flexible. Did you see this
It
part?
looked like it was kind of moving a little bit, yeah.
Yeah. No, but that's not a bad thing for a boom.
Right.
Like for other things maybe, but for a boom, that's actually pretty fun. Pretty good solution. So I'm pretty sure that a lot of people will adopt this thing. I don't think that it's, I don't know. Did you hear anything about whether or not this is already available?
I did not.
Yeah, okay. So I'm not sure.
I don't think it is.
Yeah. But we'll probably see it in IBC again, like many other products. So yeah, that was a lot of products that we covered. And there are, again, many more on NAB that we didn't, but that's, I think, enough for one video.
I'm overwhelmed.
Yeah. And thank you very much, Lou.
My pleasure.
And we will see you in the next video. We have a lot of interesting LensVid talks and reviews coming very soon. See you. Bye.
Bye-bye.